It's a war they never should have won. This is the secret history of how they did it. Daring. New ways of fighting.
Welcome back to CNN 10. I'm your host, Frances Sio. It is currently 9:58 a.m., May 30th, 1754, and today we have breaking news. We may be entering a world war. Britain, France, and the Native Americans are at each other's necks. This war also has the support of other European countries, but as you know, we are fighting for the British. So you better hide your kids, hide your wives, because they are coming.
So y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband.
Coming. The Indians are finally starting to take a stand against the British. They are tired of them taking their land. And it's not looking too good, because in the end, we may lose money. We will continue to keep you updated as more war news comes in. In other news, this dispute is over territory. Not surprising. They are fighting over the Ohio River Valley, another territory that is not theirs. Everyone wants to assert their dominance and show they are the most powerful nation. Land is a constant issue. You know, with war comes lots and lots of money. By the looks of this, we can tell the British economy will experience a huge deficit, which in turn will affect us, so we must play our cards right. Wars are very expensive, and we are already starting to feel the heat. Win or lose, let's hope for the best. Breaking news. The British just won another battle. Now, if we win, we can gain territory, which in the end will help us gain more and more money. Money will be able to flow through the economy, so we might be able to pay off this war debt. But if we lose, we will lose territory, lose money, and we'll have lots of casualties for no reason. Many of our soldiers will die. Now, if we don't win this war, we will be in a huge deficit for our economy, and we'll have to figure out how we're going to pay this off. Debt. Over to you, Jade.
We are at the end of the war. Good news, we won. But we are drowning in war debt. Tensions began to grow against colonists in Great Britain. War debt is starting to add up, and Great Britain wants to pay it off somehow. They are ridiculously taxing us. First started with the sugar, and now it's on our papers. Colonists can't tax the unnecessary tax anymore. We have a bold group amongst our hands who is fed up. So we're here with the leader, Sam. Could tell us a little more about you and your group.
The Sons of Liberty were a militant group also founded by me, Samuel Adams. The Boston Tea Party was a political protest that occurred on December 16, 1773 in Boston, Massachusetts. Many colonists began to protest against these new British taxes and laws. A group called the Sons of Liberty formed in 1765 in Boston and soon spread throughout the colonies. During one protest in Boston, a fight broke out and several colonists were shot and killed. This incident became known as the Boston Massacre. American colonists, frustrated and angry at Britain for imposing taxation without representation.
No taxation without representation. No taxation without representation.
I'm here with some protesters. What are these signs about?
Hi. So, our no taxation without representation. Parliament is continuing to tax us ridiculous charges to tax us for the war. They're trying to pay off our war debt by taxing us on our sugar. First it started with sugar, then stamp. So this no taxation without representation simply means we don't want to have to pay off the taxes that we know nothing about.
Okay, and for you?
So we're here because we are fed up, right? We fed up. We are fed up with the taxes that Britain has been putting on us from across the sea. They don't even come here. They don't even bother to see what's in the streets here. We got people dying in the streets, and they don't want to just help us out. No, they want to tax us on sugar, stamps, paper, all because we want to be independent.
As you already know, after the French and Indian War, Britain was in great debt. So that little clown, King George III, decided to enforce a whole bunch of taxes on us to pay for their debt. All that tax stuff didn't work though, because rebellious groups all over the nation, such as the Sons of Liberty, fought to have these taxes repealed. In 1775, British soldiers in Massachusetts were ordered to disarm the American rebels and to arrest their leaders. The Revolutionary War began on April 19, 1775, when fighting broke out between the two sides of the two sides of the battles of Lexington and Concord. We will soon be on our way to gaining independence from Britain. One thing to keep in mind is that many of the colonies were first founded by people trying to escape religious persecution in England. As the British government is becoming more involved in the affairs of the colonies, people began to worry, or are beginning to worry, that they may lose their freedoms.
Dance during the American Revolution. Independent.
INDEPENDENT.
Breaking news. On January 9, 1776, writer Thomas Paine published his pamphlet Common Sense, setting forth his arguments in favor of the American independence, and we'll get to meet him today. Originally published anonymously, Common Sense advocated independence for the American colonies from Britain and is considered one of the most influential pamphlets in American history. Credited with uniting average citizens and political leaders behind the idea of independence, Common Sense played a remarkable role in transforming a colonial squabble into the American Revolution. At the time, Paine wrote Common Sense as most colonists considered themselves to be aggrieved Britons. Over to you.
So, we're here with Thomas Paine. Mind if I ask you a couple questions? Okay. What made the colonists change their argument with the crown?
I gave a powerful speech saying, Europe and not England is a parent country of America. This new world hath been an asylum for the persecuted lovers of civil and religious liberty from every part of Europe, either they have fled not from the tender embraces of the mother, but from the cruelty of the monster. And it is so far true of England that the same tyranny which drove the first immigrants from home pursues their descendants still.
All right. In 1774, Paine arrived in Philadelphia and soon came to support American independence. 2 years later, his 47-page pamphlet sold almost 500,000 copies, powerfully influenced American opinion. Paine went on to serve in the U.S. Army and to work for the Committee of Foreign Affairs before returning to Europe in 1787. Back in England, he continued writing pamphlets in support of revolution. He released The Rights of Man, supporting the French Revolution in 1791 to 1792. In answer to Edmund Burke's famous reflection on the revolution in France, published in 1790, his sentiments were highly unpopular with the still monarchical British government, so he fled to France, where he was arrested for his political opinions. He returned to the United States in 1802 and died in New York in 1809. In 1774, 12 of the 13 colonies sent representatives to the First Continental Congress as a direct response to the Intolerable Acts. They sent a petition to King George III to repeal the Intolerable Acts. They never got a response. They also established a boycott of British goods. 10-second trivia. What was the first tax on the colonies? Was it A, sugar, B, stamps, C, tea, or D, tobacco? The answer is A, sugar. The American Revolution led to many positive and negative outcomes. One of the negative outcomes is we became divided. The North and South are divided by their religion. The New England colonies are Puritans. In the middle colonies, you have a good blend of all the religions. Perfect since they're in the middle, so everything has to blend. So in the middle colonies, we have Quakers, Catholics, Lutherans, Jews, and along with many others. And down south, we have Baptists and Anglicans. Now, we all know religion drives everything. We are divided and became even more divided after the revolution. Northerners believe that the colony was built upon a relationship with God. The middle colonies are a widespread of religion because of how fast the economy was growing. They were both large landowners and people who grew cash crops, and also wealthy merchants who controlled growing cities. The Southerners' church primary beliefs were built upon churches in England, where the concepts of the church and the state are linked. Most importantly, the Church of England, in which the ministers were supposed to support the kings and the Quakers, who thought that God believed that war and violence were unjustifiable. So this kind of religious practice suffered in some places because the absence of ministers supporting the king and the destruction of churches, but in other places, religion will flourish.
All taxes. After 3 days of unrest,